Hey guys, Dansonn here to answer some more of your questions in another Q&A, so let's get started. So Fu N asked me, where do you get your inspiration from and how do you express it in your beats? I get my inspiration from music from two main things. One, just my everyday experiences and the music that I listen to. I think music is all about telling stories, so that's why I try to channel everything I'm feeling in a particular day. After something as simple as watching a movie, hanging out with friends, I try to channel what I'm feeling into music and hopefully be able to relate to other people out there. Listening to music is the other big inspiration because I do take a lot of certain elements from different genres and try to combine them to make them something new. For example, classical music, soundtrack music, and hip-hop are some of my favorite genres to listen to. And the way I personally combine them has been by trying to create melodies that would be really fitting for a soundtrack for a movie, but laying them over hip-hop drums that you would typically find in just a rap beat. I always study the newest music all the time just to see ways I can challenge myself to become better at my craft and become a better producer. John N asked me, what is your ratio in working with samples to making your own melodies and such? So I've actually never sampled in terms of melodies, drum works, or anything like that because all of my beats are 100% composed. And it isn't necessarily that I'm against sampling, it was just a decision I made early on in my career that I just wanted to compose everything and not sample at all. I don't think one is better than the other, I just think they're different arts and I respect them as such. I've just never sampled and don't really have much desire to really explore it, to be honest. But I do listen to a lot of sampled work to get inspired by just the kind of vibes and moods that they can create that might be a little bit harder to capture in a composed piece, but nevertheless serve as great references and tracks for me to really look up to and inspire me in my own music. Kenyon S asked me, you said you like classical music. Is that why some of your first beats had orchestral roots? So, as I said in my previous Q&A, yes, I was raised playing the classical cello. I played for about 8 years. I just really like the warmth that these instruments, primarily strings, can really bring to a production, the way they can breathe life and make it really move. And that's something that I've always liked and utilized in pretty much all of my productions since I've gotten started. So MCL asked me, what programs do you use for your music? So in terms of digital audio workstation, otherwise known as DAW, the DAW that I've always used has been FL Studio. When I started producing back in 2010, I was in FL Studio 7, and now I'm on FL Studio 12. FL Studio is the only DAW that I've ever used, and it's mainly because it had an easy learning curve when I first started out, and honestly it's done everything I've wanted and more. I've never felt any urge or need to really switch over to a different DAW like Ableton, Logic, or any of those, just because FL Studio always satisfied what I needed. FL Studio is a great interface, a great software to get started on music production, and it's actually a lot more complex and powerful than I think a lot of people might give credit for. So I highly recommend anyone to at least check out FL Studio. It's a great program and it's the only one I've ever really used. So Dylan C asked me, what plugins or instruments for your DAW, FL Studio, would you say are the most valuable to use? I have to say my two favorite are Omnisphere and East West Symphonic Orchestra. I think Omnisphere is the best just based on how vast the sound library is. There's so much in that library that I haven't even gone through the entire thing, even though I've had it for probably about 4 years now. So if you don't have Omnisphere or you're not familiar with it, highly recommend you at least checking it out. And my other favorite, East West Symphonic Orchestra, has pretty much been the main VST I've ever used for all of my strings, violins, cellos, violas, and also some of my pianos. And the reason why I like it so much is because I think they have a really good sound. All the strings are really rich, very realistic, as they are live samples recorded into the VST. Like FL Studio, it's done everything I wanted it to, and I haven't really felt an urge to switch over to something else. So also, like Omnisphere, if you haven't heard of East West Symphonic Orchestra or don't have it, I highly recommend for you to at least check it out. So Clayton S asked me, if you got to sit down with any big time producer to expand your knowledge, who would it be? I would say the producer that I want to sit down with the most would be Alex the Kid. If you're not familiar with Alex the Kid, he's the producer behind tracks like Love the Way You Lie, I Need a Doctor, Airplanes. He's done a lot of work for Imagine Dragons. So overall, a very versatile, extremely talented producer that happens to be one of my favorites. Alex the Kid is probably my biggest inspiration on a producer level, just in terms of the sounds and the kind of beats that he puts together. All of his melodies are very powerful, moving, emotional, and his drums that he lays on top are usually very hard-hitting, very interesting, unique, and also not hip-hop specific. And for me, that's something that's really important, to create tracks that anyone can like, anyone can appreciate, and not feel limited by the label of it being hip-hop. I just want to create good music that can connect with anyone, regardless of any genre label on top of it. So that's it for this Q&A. So thank you all so much if you submitted a question. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer in a future video, please comment it below and I'll make sure to take a look at it and hopefully be able to answer in the next video. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.